Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of how to fish with zero experience. And if you watch part 1, you learned what gear to start with, how line and rods work, and 2 key lures to help you build skill. Now we're gonna fix the little things that make or break a beginner's day on the water. Because beginners, a lot of times we quit, not because we're not catching fish, it's because we get line twists, we get bird's nest, and knots fail at the worst moment, and we end up fishing empty water and wasting time, and we really don't understand what we're looking for. So let's fix that all. And first, let's start with spooling your spinning reel. So before you even tie in a lure, this is going to matter. Now you gotta understand that fishing line, it has memory, especially that monofilament that I recommended for you, and also fluorocarbon. And that means it's gonna hold the shape of the spool that it came on. And if you spool it incorrectly, you're adding twist every time you reel. And what happens next? Loops, wind knots, line billowing off the spool, and then it's gonna blow up in your first rod guide and you're gonna be like, what in the world just happened? It's a mess. So let me show you how to spool it correctly. Well, you're gonna lay the filler spool flat on the floor or table, label side up, and then you're gonna start reeling slowly onto your reel. You want the line coming off the filler spool in the same direction it's going onto your reel. You want to add some tension, but let it loosely wrap on. You want to pinch the line between your fingers above the reel while spooling, and this is going to keep that line tight and evenly packed so it doesn't dig into itself later. Also, this is a big mistake a lot of beginners make, is overfilling their spool. You're going to want to leave about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of your reel spool. And if you don't fill it up enough, you're gonna lose casting distance, right? Because there's a lot more friction coming off of this as it comes around the edge of your spool. And if you get that step right, you're gonna eliminate a lot of that beginner frustration before you even make your first cast. Next is the Palomar knot. You don't need to know 12 different knots. You can learn them over time, but you need one great knot. And a great beginner's knot is the Palomar knot. The Palomar is gonna hold strength, ties fast, and it doesn't fail when fish hit hard. So I'm gonna take you back to my workbench and I'm gonna show you how to tie this bad boy.
All right, I'm gonna walk you through with a white piece of braid so you guys can see it. So basically fold it over, leave a long tag end, take your line, run it through the hook eye, just like that. And then with that loop end right here, tie an overhand knot, just like that. And then this loop right here, you want to take your hook or your lure and then run that through it. Pull the loop up top and then make sure this is not hooked around the eye in any form or fashion. And just, if you have fluorocarbon or monofilament, you want to moisten that. However, for braid, you really don't need to. Tie that tight, snip off your tag end, and you have yourself a really nice strong knot.
So there you go, guys. That is a Palomar knot. You can use that for 95% of your applications. Next, we're going to talk about finding fishable water. What actually holds fish? This may be the most important section because here's a mindset shift that will change everything. Fish aren't random, right? They just don't swim around hoping to bump into food, right? They position themselves with purpose. You have to understand that fish are constantly balancing 3 things: safety, food, and energy conservation. If a spot gives them all 3, that's where they're going to be, right? So let's talk about 2 words that a lot of anglers screw up and use interchangeably. And I have even heard pros not get this right: structure and cover. The foundation structure is the shape of the bottom. It's permanent. Think drop-offs, points, ledges, rock piles, those creek channels. These areas really create depth changes, right? Travel routes, feeding lanes, and fish use them like underwater highways as well. If you can find a depth change, you've found potential. Cover. These are the hiding spots, right? Cover is what sits on structure. It's not permanent. Think logs, brush piles, grass, dock posts, laydowns. Cover gives fish protection and ambush points. I'm sitting in a bunch of ambush points right now, the big laydown. That's why I got my kayak in. Because at the end of the day, predators don't like chasing, right? They like surprising. However, cover isn't permanent. Although an underwater tree stump might be there a long time, it won't be there forever like a boulder would. So this is how you're going to find them. You want to target shade, right? This is the comfort zone. On bright sunny days, shade becomes a big deal. Fish don't have eyelids, right? They don't like being exposed. And in clear water especially, direct sunlight makes them feel vulnerable. So what do? They slide into the shade. So you're going to be looking for fish under docks, beside overhanging trees, along shaded banks in the morning or evening. Because shade of a big tree casting over the water, fish love those, especially on those hot sunny days. Because remember, shade's gonna do two things. One, security. Predators like bass use shadows to ambush bait. And bait fish also tuck into shade to avoid being seen. It becomes a feeding zone. And 2, temperature relief. In warm months, even small temperature differences can matter. Shaded water can be slightly cooler and more comfortable, especially in those shallow areas. So here's the key. Don't just cast at the dock. Cast to the darkest corner under the dock. Don't just throw near the tree. Throw into the shade line where the light meets the dark. Fish often position right on that edge, using the shadow as cover and the sunlight as their feeding lane. So find the shade, find the fish. All right, so next up, if you are fishing moving water, you want to target those current seams, right? This is going to be that energy savings, that conservation I was talking about. If you ever heard me talk about river fishing, you know I love chasing smallmouth and current. And here's something that'll change the way you look at moving water. Fish in rivers don't fight current all day long, right? They use it. In moving water, fish almost always face upstream. And why? Because food is coming to them. But they don't sit in the heaviest current, right? That would burn energy way too fast. Instead, they position in what's called a current seam, the line where the fast water meets that slower water. And you'll find these behind big rocks and laydown trees and bridge pilings and river bends and gravel bars. Picture the river flowing hard around a boulder, and right behind that rock is a soft pocket of water. That's the sweet spot, right? The fish sits in that calm water, conserving energy, and darts in the faster current to grab food as it drifts by. So when I'm fishing smallmouth in the river, I'm not randomly casting into the middle of the flow. So I'm targeting the downstream side of rocks, the inside bend of a river turn, the seam line where 2 speeds of water meet, right? You can literally see it sometimes. That slick line where that water texture changes. That seam right there, that's a feeding lane. Current brings in the groceries, the fish just waits at the table, and once you understand that, river fishing and fishing moving water stops being guesswork and it starts being surgical. But that sweet spot is where structure plus cover meet. That's high percentage water. All right, so let me give you some examples, right? A drop off, structure with brush on it, cover. That's perfect. So you're looking at a point, which is structure, with grass, which is cover, or a rock pile, structure, beside a current, food source. So that's not guessing, that's just fishing smart. And once you understand this, you stop randomly casting and start targeting fish with purpose. All right, so now I want to let you in on a secret that I've been using for years. It's the Deep Dive app. It's given me a real competitive advantage, and it's especially powerful for beginners because it removes a lot of that guesswork it took me years to understand. And it has something I think you might like. It's a bait selector. It helps you narrow down what to throw based on real conditions, so you're not staring at 40 lures trying to guess. Not only that, but it tells you the best colors as well as instructional video on how to retrieve that particular lure. Another thing it's going to do is actually show you the feeding window, right? I check this every single trip. It shows peak activity periods. And what this is going to help me do is, it's like I'm not scheduling a work call or eating lunch during those high percentage windows. So when that window opens, I want to be casting. And it's got a lot of other things like wind wave predictors, water clarity maps, identify water inflows, identify tournament patterns, as well as the best areas on a lot of popular lakes. So if you want that edge before your first cast, check out that Deep Dive app and fish smarter. I'll throw the link in the description below as well as the first comment. All right, so now let's talk about casting. We're going to talk about casting the spinning reel. So this is where you let the rod do the work. Casting isn't about muscle. It's about timing and telling the rod to load and release energy. So when you cast, that rod bends, it's called loading, it stores energy, and then it unloads the energy to launch your lure forward. Your job isn't to throw it as hard as you can. Your job is to be smooth. So this is how you do it step by step. So you're gonna wanna put your finger on the line, just like that. You're gonna flip your bail. This allows the line to come off the spool. You're gonna bring the rod back, release the finger, and let it fly. It went pretty far and I didn't even really have to do anything. Then after it lands, you want to close the bail manually. Don't crank the handle to snap it shut, right? Close it by hand to reduce line twist and protect your reel. Now here's the key most beginners miss. If you try to whip the rod, you actually lose accuracy and control. So that smooth motion, not force, makes the line fly further and straighter. So let the rod load, let it do the work. Control beats power every time. So now let's talk about detecting bites and setting the hook. So not every bite feels the same. With the spinner bait, it's usually obvious, right? Your rod will load up or just feel heavy, like something just grabbed it and kept pulling. That's your cue. Now with soft plastics, like a wacky worm or a Texas rig, it's a little more subtle. You might notice a small tick, or your line twitching, or the line moving sideways to the left or the right, or the bait falling and suddenly stopping, or slack line appearing when it shouldn't, right? And sometimes you don't even feel it. You see it first. So if you're not sure, guys, set the hook. Early on, hook sets are free. The worst thing that can happen is you moved your bait. Not a big deal. So hook sets are free. If it feels like a bite until you finally learn it, just set the hook. All right, so to set the hook, it's really easy. Just reel down on the slack so you have tension, and then snap the rod upward firmly. Keep your elbows in. I've actually seen people like set the hook up here and you lose a lot of power that way. So make sure it's clean, controlled, and confidence. Now let's talk about fighting and landing a fish. Don't blow it now that you've done everything right? You picked the good water, you detected the bite, you set the hook. Now don't lose it. The biggest mistake beginners make is panicking and trying to win the fight in 5 seconds because they're afraid that it's going to get off the line. But here's what actually works, right? You want to keep steady pressure, and once that fish is hooked, your job is simple. Do not let that line go slack. Slack line gives the fish a chance to shake the hook loose. And so keep your rod bent and maintain tension the entire fight. A bent rod is a good thing. It's absorbing shock and protecting your line. Also, let your drag do the work. Your reel has a drag system for a reason. If the fish makes a hard run, you should hear that smooth zzz sound as the line pulls out. That's not failure, that's actually protection. He's going. You gonna come back? Nope. She got some fight in her. So that drag's actually gonna prevent line breaks, right? Straightening out hooks and ripped out hook sets. And if you try to lock everything down and horse that fish in, that's when things snap. That's when you lose fish. So don't muscle the fish, use finesse. Let the fish fight, keep pressure, guide it, because smooth and steady beats aggressive and frantic every time. Now let's talk about landing the fish. Don't break the slack rule in this moment. This is where a lot of fish are lost. Not because the hook pulled out, not because the line snapped, because the angler gave it slack when they went to go down and grab it. Because if you give a fish slack line near the boat or bank, you may suddenly realize you never had a solid hook set buried past the bar. You just had the fish pinned. And the second that line goes loose, that fish, one shake, and it's gone. So remember the rule, no slack ever. Keep steady pressure all the way to your hand or to your net. And if you have a net, use it. If you're lipping it or lifting it by hand, do it smoothly and under control. No wild swings, no jerking the rod straight up. That's how rods break. No celebrating before it's secured. Stay calm, stay tight, finish the fight. Now let's talk about lipping a bass and safety tips. When you're handling a bass, how you grab it matters, right? For you and for the fish. To lip a bass, you want to place your thumb firmly inside the lower jaw and wrap your fingers around the outside of that jaw. Bass have a rough lower lip, which actually helps you grip it. For smaller fish, that's usually enough. For bigger bass, you're going to support, especially if you turn it sideways, you want to support that fish with your other hand under the belly. That prevents unnecessary stress on the jaw and helps protect the fish's health, especially if you're practicing catch and release. Now let's talk safety. If you're throwing lures with treble hooks like crankbaits and jerk baits, be careful about sticking your thumb in there, right? You don't want one hook in the fish and the other hook in your thumb and an angry bass shaking its head. I've had that happen before. Not fun. It's a quick trip to the first aid kit. So take your time, control the fish, watch where the hooks are before you grab, land it smart, handle it right, and keep all those hooks where they belong. All right, so now let's get a little bit tactical and go to soft plastic colors. So when you're starting out, colors can feel overwhelming, right? There are hundreds of options. You got June Bug and Watermelon Red and PB&J and Okeechobee Crawl. You don't need all of that. So if you're new, lock into 2 proven colors and learn when to throw them. Number 1, green pumpkin, the natural choice. If I could carry only one soft plastic color, it would be green pumpkin, black fleck. Green pumpkin has a subtle natural look that mimics bluegill, and it's gonna mimic crawfish and small bait fish, and it shines in clear to slightly stained water. It shines in normal daylight conditions. It shines in pressured lakes where fish see a lot of baits. So when in doubt, start with green pumpkin. Lure color number 2, black and blue. This is the visibility play, right? So now you want to flip the conditions. If the water is muddy or heavily stained or cloudy skies or early morning and late evening, black and blue is going to stand out. That contrast is going to stand out. In dirty water, fish aren't looking for detail. They're looking for a strong silhouette. And black and blue creates contrast. It's easier for bass to see in those low visibility conditions. So keep it simple. Clear water and bright conditions, green pumpkin. Dirty water, low light, black and blue. That's it. And as you gain experience, of course, you can experiment with more colors, but when you're starting out, don't let color overwhelm you. Master 2, catch fish, then expand. All right, so now let's talk about some beginner tips that matter. 1. Fish with someone experienced. It speeds up the learning curve, right? Also, early mornings and evenings often produce the best bites. But also check your deep dive app and those feeding windows. Next up, and this is where a lot of guys, they fail, right? Patience. It's literally part of the sport. Fishing isn't catching guaranteed. It's learning, it's exploring, it's improving. Oh, and don't skip this one. Before you fish public water, you need a valid fishing license. So I know here in Ohio, you have to be like 16 or older to need one, but check your state regulations. Not all states are the same. But no, it's not just about avoiding a fine. It's required by law in most states, and those license dollars fund conservation, fish stocking programs, habitat restoration, and public access. So that means when you buy a license, you're helping protect the very resource you were enjoying. But it doesn't stop there. Every state also has regulations that cover size limits, bag limits, seasonal restrictions, specific gear rules. For example, some states limit how many hooks you can use on one lure, like in Ohio. You can only fish what's called an Alabama rig, which has 5 hooks, but you can only use 3. So you have to put dummies on the remainder instead of the hooks. So check out your state wildlife website and know the rules before you go out. And if you want to level up, I've got 2 more easy baits that flat out catch them. Right here, my chatterbait video, and right here, the crazy effective Yamatanuki breakdown. Click one, keep learning, get out there, get better. And remember, you don't have to beat everybody you see online or people that you watch on YouTube. You just have to be 1% better than you were yesterday. I'll see you guys out in the water.